funding with the priorities in jobs here. I almost think sometimes, Madam Chair, that this is a test. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, so we're back to Madam Chair. Nova Scotia. Now, we all know now, broadband was phase one. Broadband has evolved to Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a digital strategy that will harness the power of the internet as a tool for innovation. With the Broadband for Rural Nova Scotia project, the province and the private sector have made significant investments well into the future. We will continue to work with service providers to make sure fast, reliable, and affordable service is available to those who want it. We will also need to optimize our ability to use this tool and exploit it to its full potential right across the province. The Nova Scotia strategy will increase internet adoption for small to medium-sized businesses and social enterprises. It will support the development of applications and high-value digital solutions. It will increase awareness in the internet's productivity and environmental benefits. And it will support collaboration throughout the province. This year's budget has allocated $900,000. With this flexible funding, Nova Scotia will be responsive to input from stakeholders in addressing their needs. In fact, we are getting started right away with events that will help inform our digital strategy. On April the 26th at Pier 21, speakers will bring in an awareness of what is shaping innovation. What is shaping innovation digitally and virtually today, and what we can look forward to in the near future. Live, in person, and online, 3 amazing digital pioneers are coming to Nova Scotia to give us a peek into their worlds and our future. Our future to educate, empower, and to inspire. As world events prove just how powerful ideas on the internet can be, it's time for Nova Scotians to talk about what we can do together. And I know, Madam Chair, that throughout this presentation that I'm giving, I've used the word together a number of times, and you'll see that it's one of the common threads that are running through this presentation and runs through our department. This will be the first in a series of events to create a virtual space in Nova Scotia where innovation thrives and productivity results. Now I want to spend just a few seconds talking about innovation and competitiveness fun. This is something that we're very excited about. We're excited about the $2 million allocation in this year's budget for the Innovation and Competitiveness Fund. This fund supports the expansion of existing programs such as the Productivity and Innovation Voucher Program, I3 Competition, and Early Stage Commercialization Fund. The fund will also allow for the development of new programs to support the recommendations resulting from the Productivity and Innovation Strategy from Nova Scotia and strategic investment and sector strategies. The fund's flexibility allows government to adapt to the rapidly changing marketplace and will support technology adoption, commercialization, and highly skilled personnel for Nova Scotia's businesses. Something Madam Chair, that it's also gathered much attention is the Regional Venture Capital Fund. This government has committed $15 million toward a new privately operated regional venture capital fund. This fund will be established over the next 18 months. The fund will target high-growth opportunities for knowledge-based companies. It will be designed to attract new capital into the region and improve access to capital for companies that want to innovate. We are working to engage our federal and Atlantic counterparts in extending the reach of the fund throughout all of Atlantic Canada. Ultimately, the fund will help Nova Scotia companies tap into international networks and build growth-focused partnerships for research and new business activities. I would take a second, Madam Chair, to highlight the business web portal, because we are also working very diligently on a new business web portal. That portal will provide a single web-based entry point to a broad range of economic development programs and services. The portal will build links across programs and help clients navigate resources based on such things as business funding opportunities, industry sector data, regional portfolios, and infrastructure and industrial parks information. The portal will increase the efficiency of service delivery and improve integration among government partners. Madam Chair, I'll take just a few seconds because this one has meant a lot to many staff, many members of staff in our new Department of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism, because it was a proud day, Madam Chair, a proud day, the day that I tabled the new Public Procurement Act. This is a great example of doing the right thing. It's as simple as that, Madam Chair, doing the right thing, placing our resources and efforts where they are going to make a real difference. The Procurement Governance Initiative will ensure all public sector identities, such as hospitals, schools, municipalities, and government departments, work together to get taxpayers the best value for the goods and services that they purchase. We estimate that public sector entities procured more than $2 billion last year alone. It's our job to ensure this money is being spent wisely, and all public sector entities are working together to be more efficient. The Act will allow for the development of a new procurement government structure, including a Chief Procurement Officer for the province of Nova Scotia, a procurement advisory group of public procurement professionals throughout the province will be created to identify efficiencies, share best practices, and implement greater standardization. The Act also mandates supplier debriefing sessions, a common vendor complaint process, a code of ethics for all public procurement professionals, and posting tender notices. Winning bidder and award amounts will be posted online. The changes will ensure greater consistency in procurement practices, and it will encourage innovative ideas and solutions in line with the goals of Jobs Here, including sustainable and efficient procurement developing competitive and innovative companies, and preparing suppliers for global markets. Through the provincial government procurement initiative, there will be more opportunities for local businesses to develop the skills necessary to apply for public sector procurement, better preparing them to compete globally. This is a priority for jobs here. Now, Madam Chair, I'm smiling because there's so many P's in that, and sometimes it gets to be a wee bit of a tongue twister. Public procurement, and it goes on. So I think it's important, I think for the benefit of those certainly in the chambers, is something that's always caught interest for many people is the IEF. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the IEF. I'd like to talk about IEF as an important economic tool for the province of Nova Scotia. The Industrial Expansion Fund, or as most of us know as the IEF, what it does, it attracts and retains businesses in the province of Nova Scotia. It has been around for more than 50 years, and it assists businesses in Nova Scotia to grow and to compete, both nationally and internationally. Our department uses the IEF as well as other tools and strategies to help support innovation and technology, increase productivity, and maintain and create good jobs, primarily through interest-bearing loans. I should repeat that, interest-bearing loans. Donald Savoie also agreed that the IEF contributes to strengthening business from away, as well as locally grown companies. He said, the fund is accessible to large multinationals, medium-sized businesses in Nova Scotia, and also to small firms. Savoie said the fund's trademark is its flexibility. This enables the department to deal with virtually all firms in many sectors. He recognized that it can and has in the past been accessible to deal with distressed situations in local communities. Some of the companies who benefit from the IEF last year were Seaside Wireless, LED Roadway Lighting, Elmsdale Lumber, Bell Alliant, Seaforth Energy, Ledgewidge Lumber, Harry Freeman and Son, Pictou Lodge Resort. All these transactions through the IEF are publicly announced, and the department produces annual reports to demonstrate investments in all regions of the province, crossing all sectors. In fact, I recently tabled those annual reports for the benefit of the members. We want to be sure we are accountable and transparent when it comes to decisions made regarding the Industrial Expansion Fund or any other investment we make to support businesses. The IEF Advisory Committee has been instrumental in strengthening governance of this important fund. The IEF Advisory Committee is an independent body made up of businesses and investment leaders in the province that provides support and advice on the IEF to myself as Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism. The purpose of the committee is to review recommendations of potential investments through the fund and ensure they are consistent in meeting the economic development objectives of the province of Nova Scotia. This impartial review of the fund, which provides financial support to businesses in the form of loans and guarantees, ensures transparency and accountability. I want to take this time to thank each of the members of this committee for their time and for their guidance during the past year. They are Sandra Greer, President and CEO of Amrex Systems; Burnt Christmas, owner of the Burnt Christmas Law Group in Toronto and past member of the National Aboriginal Economic Development Board; Anne McLean, past president of the Union of Nova Scotia Municipalities; Ron Smith, former chief financial officer with Alliant Telecom and past senior vice president and chief financial officer of Emera; and Robbie Shaw, president and CEO of the IWK Foundation. Keep in mind, Madam Chair, that this is money that is invested. It produces revenues for the province in the form of tax revenue, guarantee fees, and interest on loans. A 2008 study found that for every dollar invested, the province realized $2.89 in return. It is a net contributor to our economy and at a very healthy rate, even compared to traditional lending institutions. Madam Chair, where would we be without talking about tourism? Recently, the Tourism Division joined the department to help bring sharper focus to the industry as a strong economic driver in Nova Scotia. The sector generates annual revenues of over $1.8 billion and employs more than 31,000 people, providing benefits for every region in the province of Nova Scotia. All Nova Scotians are supported by the $173 million in total provincial tax revenues generated by the industry. Nova Scotia welcomes more than 2 million visitors every year, and it is the foremost tourism destination in Atlantic Canada. Within prudent fiscal management, the Tourism Division continues to use innovation to attract more visitors to the province and build Nova Scotia as a premier travel destination. Nova Scotia welcomed more than 2,000. Nova Scotia welcomed more visitors in 2010, a 1% increase in a challenging economic environment. And these are challenging times. We are competing with other jurisdictions, not only here in Canada, but around the world when it comes to tourism coming to this province. But having said that, Madam Chair, we are not satisfied with this performance. We are constantly looking for unique ways to respond to evolving visitor needs and trends. We want to stand out in a competitive market. The 2011 Tourism Marketing Plan is an example of our initiative. It is an innovative plan geared to our key markets here in Atlantic Canada, Ontario, the United Kingdom, Germany, and the northeastern United States. It is designed to capture the attention of potential visitors and make them want to come and experience Nova Scotia for themselves. The My Nova Scotia campaign is a prime example of the unique ways we are reaching out to these audience, a campaign that I personally am very familiar with. It is about Nova Scotians. It is about Nova Scotians promoting Nova Scotia. What a unique idea. Building the success of recent campaigns in which local heroes promote Nova Scotia, we have put a unique sign on our 2011 regional tourism campaign. And I hope that sometime during the next few hours that there will be some questions about that campaign, which I'm looking forward to responding to. We have invited all Nova Scotians to participate by auditioning for our regional television tourism promotion this summer. Any Nova Scotian resident can enter, either by uploading their own video or auditioning in person during our audition bus tour. Madam Chair, the My Nova Scotia audition bus traveled to 14 communities throughout the province to find talented individuals to look into a camera and tell us what they love most about Nova Scotia. We wanted them to do this in a compelling and enthusiastic manner. 21 lucky winners will star in the campaign, which will be airing in the Maritimes from May until September. This is a great opportunity to invite new visitors to Nova Scotia and for us to build momentum for the amazing tourism experiences we have to offer. In Ontario, we can continue to promote the best the province has to offer, our amazing seacoast, our culinary adventures, and our urban and cultural experiences. This campaign features television ads in Toronto and Ottawa on the major networks, and newspaper ads in the Ottawa Citizen and the Toronto Star have already begun a 15-week run. Of course, we will also continue to attract potential visitors online. We will use simple organizations and get the greatest bang for our buck by utilizing Facebook and online ads and a promotional event in Ontario that will drive interest and traffic to Nova Scotia, and that is novascotia.com. We're also always actively pursuing visitors in overseas markets who tend to stay longer and generate greater revenues. Some of our highest spending visitors come from Germany and the United Kingdom. These markets hold great opportunity, but our growth here is somewhat constrained by the level of air access. We continue to work as a united team with all of our government partners to grow access for visitors. Through the Gateway Secretariat, leaders in the business community, tourism industry, municipal government, the Halifax International Airport Authority, and the federal government are working together to raise awareness of the wide variety of high-quality products, services, and experiences Nova Scotia has to offer. This partnership is our strategic advantage. We know that Nova Scotia has what these visitors are seeking. Once we have captured their imagination, we must ensure that they have ample opportunity to come and visit. This year, Condor and Iceland Air will both increase their number of flights to Nova Scotia. We will be working to capitalize on this opportunity and increase the number of visitors coming from these very important markets. We also now have nonstop service from Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, Newark, New York, and Detroit. Our tourism industry is constantly evolving to match visitor needs. Worldwide, potential visitors are turning to the internet to research and to plan their trips. Nova Scotia is a leader in responding to their needs with innovative and effective digital and social media tools that capture the attention of potential visitors and are cost-effective. This spring, we are raising the bar by creating a mobile version of novascotia.com. The mobile-friendly site will allow visitors to easily access the most up-to-date visitor information from the palm of their hand. The way visitors find travel information is changing. It has changed. Increasingly, people are using mobile devices while traveling. They are more likely to use the internet than call for information by telephone. As a result, the volume of calls for visitor information has decreased significantly. Significantly in the last few years. And half of the calls we now receive are simply a request for travel information. We are implementing an innovative way to handle these visitor inquiries through existing in-house resources. This will allow us to make fuller use of government employees and save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We're constantly reviewing the way we do business to ensure we are making the right decisions. These improvements to our tourism contact service will help the department provide better service and save taxpayers money, helping the province to live within its means. We will also be making more efficient use of resources at the Provincial Information Centre in Yarmouth, which are currently underused. Staff at the VIC are well-trained and experienced and have excellent product knowledge. These employees will be given extra training to handle the majority of these visitor service calls, allowing us to provide better quality service to potential visitors. This initiative will also allow us to create good jobs that will help grow the economy in Yarmouth. 7 seasonal jobs at the VIC will become year-round positions, and we'll also be adding about 4 other seasonal employees. We concentrate on strategic thinking and innovation in offering our visitors the broadest range of high-quality experiences and service in the region. We are constantly evolving. We are constantly evolving to exceed visitor expectations. We don't want to live up to it. We want to exceed. And we will continue to use best practices to promote Nova Scotia as a world-class travel destination. Now, Madam Chair, I'd like to talk about the Gateway. I will now move to a close tourism partner and certainly a powerful economic driver, the Nova Scotia Gateway Secretariat. Gateway helps create good jobs and grow the economy by increasing trade logistics activity throughout the province. They are dedicated by leading the government's effort to grow the volume of gateway-related traffic moving through the province's transportation infrastructure. They are also ensuring the province receives maximum economic value for gateway traffic. The Gateway Secretariat is focused on new initiatives such as creation of supply chain logistics tool, cargo village hub, and in-market presence initiative. They have also been instrumental in extremely important initiatives such as the twinning of Highway 104 and the extension of Stanfield International Airport's runway. Through the Gateway Secretariat, Nova Scotia will play a leadership role in forging an aggressive gateway marketing and business development strategy focused on North America and Asia. We have an asset that not many others in North America can boast about. To give you an idea of the gravity of our asset, 10 Maersk vessels have been ordered from Daewoo. These ships are 18,000 TEUs. That is 3 times larger than the largest ship that can access Montreal's port. But these ships can come here. Our port is world-class. Through Gateway initiatives, we're going to market and use our unique assets to secure a prosperous future for Nova Scotia. My department now has consolidated trade to place a further emphasis on our need for robust trade as an economic driver. We are seeing the necessity for this emphasis nationally in current Canada-European Union trade negotiations. For the first time in Canada's international trade negotiations, provinces and territories have been invited to participate at 6 of the 12 negotiating tables to address trade and investment issues that fall within provincial jurisdiction within Canada. Canada-EU remains the priority for the year as we continue to profile Nova Scotia's interest in these negotiations. We are working with experts. We are working with businesses and interest groups to fully understand what is in the best interest of all Nova Scotians. Something we all agree on is how valuable it would be for our firms to have access to a market of 500 million people. The European Union is a long-standing and important partner in Nova Scotia's international trade and investment, and we look forward to enhancing that relationship through these negotiations. In addition to the European Union, this year we are working with the federal government to feed into negotiations with India, the Caribbean, and possibly Japan. We also support federal efforts to work with the United States for expanded access to government procurement at the state levels. Our trade team also focuses its efforts on our province's participation in Canada's agreement on international trade negotiations. This agreement commits federal, provincial, and territorial governments to work to enable people, goods, services, and investments to move freely throughout the country. It establishes a framework for Canadian governments to work together to develop and maintain an open and efficient domestic market. It covers government procurement, investment, labor, mobility, consumer-related measures and standards, along with agriculture and goods, alcoholic beverages, natural resources processing, communications, transportation, and environmental protection. Regional cooperation is also a priority for me. In this government, the partnership agreement on regulation and the economy between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick creates opportunities for increased cooperation and efficiency for both provinces. I believe that strong international trade practices will help Canadian workers and businesses of all regions improve our competitiveness and productivity, as well as lower costs. As Minister of Economic and Rural Development, I am also responsible for 5 agencies that play a vital role in our economy. Those agencies, NSBI, and I know, Madam Chair, I am running out of time, unfortunately, but they will, those agencies include NSBI, Innovacor, Waterfront Development Corporation Limited, World Trade and Convention Center, and in the spirit of time, I also want to take a minute and maybe in my closing remarks, Madam Chair, I might be able to elaborate, because I say that only because in an hour's not enough time with the responsibilities and the challenges that and the lead role that this department has, and there's so much that's intertwined with economic and rural development and tourism that an hour doesn't do it justice. That I could spend the rest of the afternoon talking about the things that the responsibilities that we have in the future of Nova Scotia that's been deposited with us. And I also want to take a minute, Madam
Order,
Chair,
please.
to mention.
Order, please. I just want to educate, I guess, or let people know, let the House know that according to Rule number 23, there is a 1-hour time limit on speeches. However, we can allow the Minister to conclude his remarks with unanimous consent of the House. So if the Minister could perhaps give us a sense of what we might be considering if he wanted to conclude his remarks, and then I'll ask if there's an agreement.
Well,
the Honourable Minister of
I think
Economic and Rural Development and Tourism, just to give us a sense of how much longer do you think you need, and then I'll ask if there's an agreement.
Well, I could take easily probably 45 minutes. And I say 45 minutes because the last thing I want to do is say that I'm going to take 30 minutes and be up and still not be finished. But I think in all fairness to the members opposite that it would probably take me 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you. The honourable member from Hants West.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I can appreciate and certainly would not want the minister to rush, but I do know that he'll be here for a number of hours during the estimates, and I'm sure, Minister, there'll be ample opportunity to speak to the number of issues, and I'm sure that you'll take the time to let us know clearly your thoughts and where we're heading, and we'll certainly be asking. So I don't think my Liberal colleague can speak, but as far as I'm concerned, if we want to take 2 or 3 more minutes, just maybe to wrap, thank your staff. I think that's where you started the head, but anyway, I may be incorrect in that, and then we could get on with the estimates just in the essence of time. It's certainly important to us. Thank you.
Okay, so my understanding is that there would be an allowance for a couple of minutes just to wrap up your comments, and then we'll proceed to offering the opposition the floor. Minister, are you interested in having that couple of minutes? Or should we proceed?
You know, I'd like to take just a couple of minutes because I have been joined by more people.
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism for wrap up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the members opposite. I am looking forward to estimates. It seems like it's been a while since I've been up here, so I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'd like to thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to acknowledge that to my left here I have the Sandra McKenzie, who is the Associate Deputy Minister from Economic and Rural Development and Tourism, and also we have Darlene O'Neill here to my right. Who has also joined me, and I also noticed that we have a number of staff in the gallery, and when I say that, Madam Chair, and when I look at the staff in the gallery, again, it reinforces to me the importance of having that more time for such an important portfolio when I see all the different departments that are represented in the gallery. And I dare not name them all because I might miss somebody, but it just reinforces in me, Madam Chair, the huge responsibility that rests with staff. And we had our first staff meeting just a week ago, and I want to take this time to reiterate publicly and in this chamber my thanks to all the staff at Economic and Rural Development and Tourism, and I want to thank them for their indulgence, for their patience, and for their cooperation as we go through this realignment. And I've got to say, and I say in this House, and how proud I am of the members of that staff.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the member from the official opposition party, the honourable member for Yarmouth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opening comments, Minister. I do want to express my appreciation to the Minister for always being willing to discuss these issues outside of the House of Assembly, on and off the record. And I want to thank him in particular for taking time out of his busy schedule to come to Yarmouth back in February, I believe, to meet with folks from our business community, our municipalities, and other representatives from the area. And I also do want to take the time to thank and recognize the staff that are in attendance here today. You know, it's a great thing to see so many talented, capable people put their name forward to serve the public in the way that you folks do. I know that you care deeply about the portfolio and want to do the best work you can do. So thank you for being here with us today. You know, that doesn't mean that I haven't been critical about some of the decisions that have been made either by this department or the cabinet, Madam Chair, and I realize that the mandate of this department is to grow the economy and, as the Minister said, create jobs. And I feel that in certain circumstances, you know, one in particular that a lot of people are familiar with, being the Yarmouth Ferry, there's been decisions that have been made that are actually, you know, anathema to achieving some of those said goals. You know, I appreciate the fact that we're going to be able to talk about some of those issues throughout estimates at length. And you know, we hear a lot of I think very encouraging language come from the Minister and the department. language about growing the economy, about focusing on people, creating opportunities. And those sorts of statements are things that I believe all of us in the House share. You know, we all want to see this province be successful. We want to see jobs, the amount of jobs increase, and the amount of opportunity increase for people in this province. But we do have to make sure that our actions are following along with those words, and I think that's an important thing to note. You know, we hear a lot about how, you know, again in the minister's opening comments, we hear how great the tourism industry is doing in the province. But I haven't heard from one tourism operator that says they've had a great year. A lot of the folks that I'm in touch with on a daily basis back home in Yarmouth and in Southwest Nova Scotia and beyond actually express a very sincere and real concern about the future of their individual operations and perhaps the industry in certain parts of the province. So these are issues I think that are very important, and I do look forward to discussing more about with the minister. Now, I realize that a big focus of this budget in particular is the Jobs Here strategy. And again, you know, at first glance, this seems to be a very encouraging document. We want to create jobs here. We want to create opportunity. But you know, when you get beyond the language of the document, it's important to look at the numbers and what results our actions and our plans are achieving. And so, my first question to the minister would be, what are the projected number of new jobs that you intend to be created through Jobs Here? What is that projected number, and when are we supposed to achieve those jobs by?
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank you for the question. I think in order for all of us to get a grasp on Jobs Here, I think one thing that we are in agreement about, and the member says that the language is good, and he's looking for some numbers. And through Jobs Here, the strategy around Jobs Here is not only about today, but it's also about tomorrow, and it's about for years to come. So I'm reluctant to make predictions because that's not the purpose of Jobs Here. The purpose of Jobs Here is to create jobs and grow the economy. It's not about numbers. It's about an up-to-date strategy that will address the needs of Nova Scotian when it comes to jobs and growing the economy. Jobs Here is different. And I say that is because it's different for a number of reasons, but they're very, very important reasons. One is that this is the first time, to my knowledge, that government has taken the time to have input from Nova Scotians about creating a strategy related to the economy and to jobs. One of the things that I learned very, very early in my life, and I think I owe this a lot to my years that I spent at the housing, what I've seen in the past, and I don't say this in a disrespectful way, because I think it's human nature, and what we've done in the past, and I'm saying all of us, so this is not a finger-pointing process for me, but sometimes when we see a problem, we do an action right away. Because we want to, it's human nature. The first thing, if we see the problem, we want to implement a strategy right away. What Jobs Here did, which is different, is we created an awareness of what it is, and with that awareness, we also created an understanding. And we did that through consultation. And we did an extensive consultation with targeted audience such as the business community and the community at large. The other thing about Jobs Here is that it's planned for the future. We recognize that, and I think sometimes change can sneak up on you. you turn around and there's something new in place. And I never imagined, and it's only when I stopped to think about that, how many people write letters today? I mean, we've got email, we got Facebook, we got all these ways that and it just, all of a sudden it was there. With jobs here and looking at the global economy and where we have to be globally, that it was important for us to devise a plan that also looked after implementation. And one of the things that I say as minister, is that it's not important that I'm here tomorrow. What's important is that jobs here is going to continue regardless of who's here. And I think that's a new vision that may be here in Nova Scotia that we may not all be used to. So when I'm asked the question about prediction, I can tell you this, is that with jobs here that, and through the activities of economic and rural development, through the number of tools that we have within SBI and all of those good individuals that work within government that we've created and maintained in the past 21 months, literally thousands of jobs. Having said that, I don't make predictions into the future when it comes to numbers about jobs. I do know that, and I believe, as also I think Dr. Savoy agreed that the jobs here, and a number of other experts agreed that the jobs here strategy is the way of tomorrow. It's not only the way of today, it's the way of tomorrow. And when we talk about creating jobs, another important strategy, and I talked a little bit about it with the jobs here, is the flexibility that jobs here has within its own framework. And by that I simply mean that it's got a built-in flexibility so that as things evolve around us, that jobs here can adapt to those changes and continue to do what it's mandated to do, and that is to create jobs and grow the economy.
The honourable member for Yarmouth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the response, Minister. And I do understand that you can't stand in the House today and give us a concrete prediction of where, generally speaking, the economy is going to be in a number of years. And you can't plan for all the contingencies that will pop up along the way. But I do think it's very critical in having an economic development plan whose stated goals are to create jobs, that we actually have some targets associated with that plan, and that we have some understanding where we're going with jobs. So we're putting all this money into a jobs here strategy, but you get up and say in the House that we don't know how many jobs this is actually going to create. If we're not identifying targets, if we're not continually evaluating whether we're reaching those targets or not, then my question is, how do you know you're accomplishing the said goals of this strategy? If it seems from my perspective, there needs to be some targets in place. Otherwise, we don't know what we're accomplishing out of this. And how do you evaluate something if you don't know if you're achieving your short-term goals, long-term goals, and objectives? So I think that's it's an interesting concept with this to say that we're not going to be able to predict what's going to happen. I understand that for on an obscure level we're not going to be able to predict what happens, but in terms of identifying concrete targets along the way, establishing concrete goals and objectives, and evaluating if we're achieving those or not, I think that's absolutely critical to any economic development strategy. And I'm wondering, there's been some discussion, I believe, from the Minister and the Premier, and I believe the member from Halifax, Citadel, Sable Island, about jobs that have been created to date from jobs here. So I'd be interested to hearing from the Minister if he has any numbers on how many jobs have been created since the launch of this program and its subsequent and continual implementation.
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I recognize what the member is asking, and I am going to give you something. But I just a couple of things that you said. That first of all, I think what we have with jobs here. It's a evolving and moving target when it comes to setting targets and how you evaluate things. Evaluations are based on what you've done. It's what you've achieved over a period of time. So that's how you evaluate. I appreciate and I comprehend fully what you say about setting goals. I'll say this, and I'm not going to end with this, but under jobs here, our job is to create as many jobs as possible. Now, what we've done in this past year is we've maintained, sustained, and we have created many jobs. What you're looking for is a number. And I'm going to give you a number, but under the circumstances is that because it's a moving target, that I'm not a fortune teller. I will say we're going to create as many jobs as possible, but we want to, over the next 3 to 5 years, we will be creating somewhere in the vicinity of 2,000 to just under 4,000 jobs. That's what we hope. So that's quite a range. And I say it's a moving target, and I want to re-emphasize that we are going to create as many jobs. We think right now that what we have with the Jobs Here strategy and what we have with all of our agencies, especially with the good work that NSBI does about that competitive market, we think we got a winning formula. We think that this is a winning formula, and I would say that, and again, I started to say earlier that if I wasn't here tomorrow, you know, the most important thing is that Jobs Here continues. If we weren't government, that I would like to think the way that Jobs Here is shaped, and one of the things that I said in my preamble is I've used the word together, and the member has mentioned in your opening remarks, you made some comments about me visiting Yarmouth and me being accessible here in the House and outside the chambers, because we all should be working together with respect to Jobs Here. And trust me, this is not a political rant, but we, all of us, all 52 members in this House of Assembly have a responsibility to Nova Scotia. All of us. And I would like to think that that's a shared responsibility. So when I meet with you and we're discussing the concerns about in Yarmouth, whether it be around tourism, whether it be around the ferry, whether it be around even we've talked about the African Nova Scotian community in that particular area of the province that has felt somewhat left out of the mix. So it's about us working together to accomplish the goals that are set in front of us. So the real evaluation is in what you accomplish or what you don't accomplish.
The honourable member for Yarmouth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the minister's comments around cooperation and all working together to achieve the goals that we all have in this chamber, and that's to improve the province. And I just want the minister to know that as soon as I get an invitation to come and help make decisions at the cabinet table, I'll be there, sir. I promise you that. I appreciate that the goal of this plan is to create as many jobs as possible. A fear I have that if that's the said goal, then what the department is doing is creating a scenario where you can't actually evaluate whether you're accomplishing that goal or not, because that's, I mean, to say as many jobs as possible, I find it to be very, intangible, pie in the sky thing. And I fear if that's the goal of the department, then the department itself, along with the public and opposition parties, is going to have a very hard time saying we're achieving our goals, because is 3 jobs as many as possible? Is 100 jobs? Is 5,000 jobs as many as possible? I mean, that's why I think it's absolutely vital that there's some set targets with some set timelines, so that obviously the opposition parties, the public, but also your department can track the implementation of this plan, and actually continually evaluate to see whether you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish from it. Otherwise, you're going to have a scenario where you don't know what you're accomplishing. You don't know if it's doing all it can do. You don't know if the programs in place need to be rethought or changed. Like you said, we are dealing in a dynamic marketplace and economic environment. And the department and government is going to have to be able to evolve to all those changing circumstances. But that doesn't mean you don't put concrete targets in place with a plan to achieve them and set deadlines, so that you're actually able to assess the productivity and the accomplishments and the achievements, as you said, Minister, of this plan. Otherwise, I think we're shooting into the dark if that's not the case.
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought probably me, but I thought I did give a number, because I gave a number between that 3 and 5 year period, which would be, I think I said something just over 2,000 to under 4,000. I think the projected number is more like 3,600. But also, I think for the member is that what we currently do and how we evaluate things is we currently track jobs now. So when we create jobs, we know what region of the province, what industry that they're in. There will be there's categories for jobs. There will be jobs for learning, and so we can track, we can tell present time within reason how many jobs have been created as a result. There will be jobs that are going to be created that are the result of a project, what we call project-related jobs. Again, we can track those. We can tell the public. We can certainly inform you of what those numbers are, and then there are long-term jobs that are going to be here for our future. We track all of those. So those are the basic 3 categories, and I certainly don't want to beat this to death, but I think, and we can certainly agree to disagree, but that in itself, if we can track jobs, and if we know a year from now how many jobs that we had at that particular time, if we know now how many jobs that we have created or sustained, and more importantly, in what categories they are, that in itself provides us with a point of evaluation. So then we can sit down, we can analyze that, and we can tell in what sectors, in what fields, and what areas that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. So that in itself serves as an evaluation as to where we're going in the future and where we've been in the past. I hope that's some help.
The Honourable Member for Yarmouth.
So, Madam Chair, the Minister has mentioned this 2,000 to 4,000 target for 3 to 5 years. Is that correct? 3 to 5 years from now, my question is that the target for the Jobs Here plan? Is that the target? That Jobs Here is going to, I'm going to have some more questions after this as well.
I understand, but if you'd like to complete your question and have the answer by the minister, I just want to make sure that I've got your break.
Okay. So my first question, I will continue to speak after this, Madam Chair. My first question is the $2,000 to $4,000 number the only target for job creation that's outlined in the Jobs Here strategy? Is that the only one? And I'll be interested to see what the minister's answer is on that. And also, are we tracking to date jobs that have been created from the implementation of this plan? If so, how many jobs from the launch of Jobs Here to the current date have been created through the implementation of that strategy and plan?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess to offer some clarity to the member, I gave a number. I think it was 2,200, and I think the range 2,200 to 25. 30. I'm sorry. Yeah, 3,500. That is the number of jobs that we are projecting over the next 3 to 5 years. Those are jobs that we've actually are predicting, mostly through the good work and through the efforts of, well, in a large part through NSBI. So over the next 3 to 5 years, the prediction is that we will create 2,200 to 3,500 jobs. And that's based on the information that we have in front of us now. Now, again, I want to reiterate, is because there's no magic here except hard work, that my wish and my want is that number will increase the more we get into Jobs Here. Jobs Here is still relatively new, strategy, and so this is the prediction thus far. And I would like to think that as we get more into it, the longer the strategy is up and running, then hopefully that will increase. And the more we become known in the global market. Right now, one of the things I did say is, first of all, that we are a small province. And if you go anywhere in the world, there's a lot of people that haven't heard of us. You know, whenever I'm on a trade mission, or if I'm out of the country on business, on government-related business, or even as a tourist or doing family things, and people say, well, where are you from? When I say Nova Scotia, there's not many people that know where Nova Scotia is outside of Canada, outside of North America. And, you know, if I say Canada, they generally know where Canada is, but when I say Nova Scotia, many of them draw blanks. So we have to be more competitive. In order to be more competitive, we have to let jurisdictions around the world know that we exist. So that target that I've already mentioned, again, it's a moving target. And our wish, my wish, our goal, and certainly the goal of staff, is that a year from now, you and I will be sitting in our places, and you're going to ask me the same questions, and I'll be able to say, well, now that target of 22 to 35, well, you know what? It would be nice if I could say that we've reached that 35, and now we're pushing on to 45 or something even higher.
The honourable member for Yarmouth.
Thank you. So I think it's you know, it's if these are the only targets that we have put forward right now, this 2,200 to 3,500 jobs, I think it's very important that there's some periodic tracking with this, so that you're able to update the public, update us on how this project is doing. And I'd be interested to to hear how that's going to happen, how that tracking is going to happen, and what you know, what is going to equate success with this. So if you're looking at the numbers, if you know, and you create 2,200 to 3,500 jobs in 3 to 5 years, is that the only criteria you're going to look at whether the judges have been successful? Or are you going to look at the wider economic situation in Nova Scotia? So say we've created 3,500 jobs through Jobs Here, which is the high end of the target. Will you also take into consideration jobs that are lost in that time, the unemployment rate, the employment rate, those sorts of things? Will those statistics be used in assessing the success of this program? Because, you know, I know members of this House have said before from the government side that, you know, jobs have been created from Jobs Here to date. I haven't heard a concrete number. I think the member from Halifax, Citadel, Sable Island mentioned something in the range of 2,000 in an earlier debate we had. I could be wrong in that. I'm sure someone will dig up the answer on that anyway, and whether tell me. Okay, so probably more than two. So, okay, so you know, if it's been probably more than 2,000 jobs to date that have been created through this program, I mean that's not indicated by the statistics that are out there right now, where employment numbers in every region outside of Halifax and Halifax County and Metro is actually decreasing right now. The employment numbers are decreasing, and this is from January 9 until the present. Numbers have been consistently going down, and that's still in, you know, that still looks at the numbers from when this plan was launched. Unemployment numbers have steadily been going up since that time, and unemployment's actually gone up in Halifax County and Halifax Metro as well. In every region of the province, unemployment has gone up, and the unemployment rate has also increased in every region of the province, and I can table those documents for the House. But it's also interesting to look at the numbers of people that are leaving the province, and I know that a said goal of Jobs Here is to keep people here in the province, but we've been experiencing, I think the most recent numbers would say that an interprovincial net loss of Nova Scotians. That's what we've been experiencing, an interprovincial net loss of people actually leaving the province. Mostly, I would assume, because of the economic situation here, and we're faced with numbers of decreasing numbers in the labor force. So these, I think, are all important statistics to keep track of. And it's one thing to say, well, we've created 3,500 jobs, but if these trends continue, then where's the real value in those 3,500 jobs for the overall general outlook of the province? So I think it'd be very important for members of this House to see how this plan is going to be tracked, how we're going to assess the achievements of this plan, and how we're going to make sure that every single program that's implemented through this plan, every single funding proposal that's brought forward to create jobs is actually not just creating a few jobs, but having an overall impact on the success of the Nova Scotia economy.
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Well, wow. Because I've got to say, you raised, I've heard more than one question in that. And I guess first I'm going to say is, yes, we do track. We do track jobs, but also I think that when you talk about measurements and how do I think you might have used milestones and how do we know what's success and what's and where we are in the big picture? Well, we will be able to tell this is by analysis. And If we increase trade, that's certainly one way. It's not all of it, but it takes a number of ways. Increasing productivity, investing in workplace training and workplace education. We've also said in jobs here that that's a key component of jobs here. Investment in the most important resource that we have, and that's our human resource. We will. Another way of measurement is through exports. Have we increased our exports? Are we exporting more today than what we did a year ago, and 5 years ago, and 10 years ago? So there are ways of measuring those very things, and we do. And jobs are quite. I'm not going to say easy, but we do track them. We do track them in a very, very effective way. You also mentioned, and I've got to spend just a minute on this, but you talked about out migration and how we are losing many of our citizens. And is out migration a concern? Well, yes, it is. I mean, we got another concern as well, and I'm just going to park out migration just for about 5 seconds, because another concern that we have is that we've got to make sure as we move down this road that we have the people, we have the individuals available that can staff the jobs that we do create. Not only do we have to have the numbers, but we also have to make sure that they're educated and they're able to do it. That goes back to the education and the training. The out migration is, I think about this a lot. Do we need more immigrants? We need more immigrants. Do we need more? We need more of our people that were born and raised here. We've got some untapped markets here in Nova Scotia, and I could name the Mi'kmaq, the First Nations community that has a ready human resource there that's available to us. We've got to look at the African Nova Scotian community, which is underrepresented in the workplace, and so we've got to, and it comes back to the education and the training, and Jobs Here does that. We just implemented a new program about 3 weeks ago, Skills Up, targeted for the African Nova Scotian community, which is going to have an enormous impact on that particular population. So we have to do some outreach because Jobs Here is not a standalone. It reaches out and it touches on everybody. And for us to be inclusive, we've got to reach out. We can't sit back and wait like we've been doing in the past. We've got to do more outreach, and we've got to provide more in the way of education and training. Out migration is not new. Out migration, as long as I can remember, has always been a problem in the province of Nova Scotia, or a concern. I look at out migration when I was born. Individuals in the African Nova Scotia community were going to Boston. Then the U.S. got to be a favorite place, and then it was Montreal, and then Toronto, and now I think it's probably Calgary, like a lot of other people. So out migration isn't new to us. We've always, rural Nova Scotia has always lost residents to Halifax, to Toronto, to Montreal, to larger centers where they could secure employment. So it's nothing new. I think we have, and I think probably to really drive this home, we have communities in Nova Scotia, African Nova Scotia communities, they're on the verge of non-existent. They're non-existent because there's nobody living there anymore, or very few people. Is that a concern? Culturally, it should be a concern for all Nova Scotians. Are we concerned about it as government? Absolutely, and that's why we are developing and implementing initiatives to help us address this in the large picture. So, out migration. We have to do something about it. We have to attract more immigrants to come to Nova Scotia. And I hear a lot of conversation about, and I don't hear so much now, but I used to hear, well, if we're going to address our human resource problem in Nova Scotia, we need more immigrants to come to Nova Scotia. Well, that's only one part of the equation. And I say that in all sincerity. I mean, do we need and do we want immigrants to come to Nova Scotia? Absolutely. Do we need them? Yes. But in the same breath, we've got populations here that are underemployed, that we have to also not completely focus on one, but we've got to spread our focus across the full spectrum if we want to accomplish the tasks that we are set out with respect to jobs here. So in your, when you raised a couple very important and very vital topics in your questioning that are fully related. Rural Nova Scotia, and I know because the member is from Yarmouth, is a small, and I guess I don't know if I would call it a rural community, but a small Nova Scotia town that certainly needs all the assistance that's available to them. And that's why we recognize and why we did things like we do with other communities, and that's why you have a new task force there that is acting on an interim basis as for the lack of a better word, as a substitute for the RDA, because this government, and as minister, I recognize the need to stimulate and create employment and business opportunities in an area, and because something fell apart, then we don't want to see the community suffer. And we do that no matter where it is in the province of Nova Scotia. So you're raising a lot of good points within your questioning, but I think we recognize each and every one of them: out migration, immigrants, small communities. Not everything centers and focuses on Halifax. I was at a meeting, and I don't think it's important where the meeting was, but it just say it was in a rural Nova Scotia community, and a councillor got up, and this was a community meeting. It was a public meeting, not one of the secretive public meetings that I advertised in the paper, but. It was, yeah, you got to let it go, yeah. It was a meeting that the councillor got up and said, well, everything's about Halifax. And my response is that we, no matter where we live in Nova Scotia, have to recognize how important Halifax is to the economy of Nova Scotia. You know, whether you like it or whether you don't like it, Halifax is the economic engine of Atlantic Canada. And the sooner, what's good in Halifax has an impact on the rest of Nova Scotia. One of the things that I strive to do, and I'll tell you a little secret, and I guess maybe it's not a secret, and I'll share this with you, is that oftentimes when people from out of country, out of state, come to Halifax and they're looking at investing in Nova Scotia, they come here because they've heard some good things about the province. one of the things that they look for, is they look for activity. And do you know what they're looking for? They're looking for cranes. They're looking at the skyline. And they're looking for, because if they're going to invest in Nova Scotia, they want to come to a place that's vibrant, that's got activity going on, that's moving forward. And I'm trying to court or entice them to come to Nova Scotia. There's to Nova Scotia, but Halifax as the capital city, as the largest city in the region, I'm hard pressed to show them those areas of the city that I can say, well, look at all these cranes. And in all seriousness, I can only go down to the container pier so many times before they catch on. But it's so vital, it's so important that that type of activity encourages more activity. So, and as good as Halifax does, spills over to the rest of the province.
The honourable member for Yarmouth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the minister touched on what I think is going to be one of our greatest challenges here in the province of Nova Scotia and in the country, and that's a skilled labor shortage that we're going to be faced with. And there's, provincially, there's some different reasons for that. People leaving the province, out-migration of residents and citizens would be one reason. And there's certain things that we can do to try to address that kind of impending labor shortage. Stemming the flow of out-migration is obviously going to be important. That seems that it should be a center stone of jobs here to stop the bleeding of Nova Scotians that are forced to go to Alberta, even New Brunswick and Ontario or wherever else. Like the minister said, we need to talk about bringing people into the province from other countries, supporting and having an immigration system that facilitates the integration of skilled workers from other countries, but that also needs to be extended to our own provinces and bringing people from other areas of the country to Nova Scotia as well, because there's some great things that we can sell here, including our low cost of living and real estate markets, which are pretty good to get people here. I know a couple in Yarmouth that came from Quebec, fell in love with the place, stayed, and now they're working to contribute to the Yarmouth economy by bringing more. They're actually involved in tourism by bringing more of their fellow residents of Quebec into Yarmouth and letting the area know about letting people outside the province know about the beauty and the advantages of that area. But one key component to addressing the skilled labor shortage is increasing the participation rates of many young Nova Scotians that currently aren't participating. I believe that nationwide, 70% of jobs that we've created in the last number of years require a post-secondary skill of some sort, whether it's a community college degree or certificate or a university degree. And one of the because of the declining population base we have, that's another reason why we're going to have a skilled labor shortage, is because of changing demographics. We have an aging population, yes, less young people coming through the system. We need to do a better job of reaching out to those individuals that aren't participating in our education system, namely low-income people, individuals from low-income backgrounds, our Aboriginal students, and many rural students, to ensure that they're being brought into the education system and acquiring the skills that they not only need to be successful, but that the province and country need them to have, so that we can fulfill the demand of skilled workers that's out there. And I will tell you, my background is in education policy. I'm not saying I'm a policy wonk by any means in anything, but if I do know one policy, it would be education policy, especially around accessibility. And in the Jobs Here program, we talk about increasing the skills of our young people, but in the financial, and I realize this isn't in your department, Minister, but it affects the outcomes of your department. The plan that's been put forward to help students won't address the issue of accessibility right now. It's not going to increase the participation rates of low-income students, of Aboriginal students and rural students, to get them into the education system, because while the proposal that was brought forward to help students, I think, has a lot of good things in it, especially the debt cap and making education more, hopefully making education more affordable for many students. That is only going to help the students that are actually in the system. That's what we've learned by looking at financial aid programs across the country, is that affordability measures help the middle income to higher income students come out with less debt. It doesn't do what most people hope it does, and increase accessibility. So I just want to put that on your radar, that if it is a goal of your department to increase the skilled labor numbers that we have and increase participation of people that aren't currently getting the skills that they need and that our province needs them to have, that's something that I believe you're going to have to work with the Department of Education on to help address that issue, because I think that's going to be a very real one. And as you know, I haven't heard an economist that said our economy isn't based on our people, as you said, and the skills and talents of those people. So that's something I think is very important to keep track of, because right now we're not doing anything as a province to increase the participation rates of those people, and they are going to be left behind. And also, we're going to have less opportunities to address the skilled labor shortage that is coming our way.
The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've got to say again to the member, you raise a number of very, very interesting and thought-provoking things. And first of all, I want to acknowledge the Minister of Labour and Advanced Education. And the reason I want to do that is because she has played a very lead role as we implement jobs here, and certainly she has championed some of those very things that you suggested that we're void of under the Jobs Here strategy. And a good example would be the Skills Up program. And I mentioned the Skills Up in my preamble because it through the Minister of Labour and Advanced Education. That's the program that meets one of those very targeted groups that you talk about. So it's about the Skills Up program is targeted for persons of African descent that have either fallen through the cracks, have fallen through the cracks and that need that extra something. And when you talk about accessibility, and you mentioned that I may not be the appropriate minister that you should ask that question to. Well, the appropriate minister is the Labour and Advanced Education. However, I do have some expertise in that area because of my background. I was employed for over 20 years at Dalhousie University, so you know, there are initiatives that are available that addresses some of those issues and concerns that you raise around accessibility. But we also, under the Jobs Here, and certainly with the minister responsible, have acknowledged, recognized, and we put some things in place to address some of those gaps. Are we finished yet? Well, no, we're not. Also, with the Minister of Labour and Advanced Education, her and I co-chair the workplace strategy. So we work together very closely with those very things that are of concern to you, that we are working to address those gaps and those individuals that may otherwise be missing out as we work towards the future. So when we talk about the First Nations community, the Aboriginal community, the Mi'kmaq community, the African, and even immigrants, there's a concern there with immigrants around certification. So I want to assure the member opposite that we are aware of those. We are attempting to address them. Are we finished yet? Well, no, we're not. We've got a ways to go. Yeah. We also recently.
Order. Sorry. The time allotted for supply has elapsed, and I will now need to call a recess for about 15 minutes in order for the subcommittee on supply to finish their business for the day and our staff to be able to make their way. 6 minutes. Thank you. Oh, no, excuse me. I guess I will call a recess for, for a few minutes. Thank you. Order, please. I now recognize the Honourable Government House Leader.
Madam Chair, I move that the committee do now rise and that you report progress and beg leave to sit again.
The motion is carried. The committee will now rise and report its business to the House. The Chair of the Committee of the Whole House on Supply reports
that the committee has met, has made considerable progress, and begs leave to sit again.
Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that completes the government's business for today. We will be meeting on Tuesday, which is, I believe, 26th of April, from the hours of 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And after daily routine and question period, we will go into supply under Her Majesty. And time permitting, we will call bills for second reading, bills 17, 21, 23, 25, 27, 30, 33, and 35. With that, Madam Speaker, I wish you to now leave and we move adjournment.
Thank you. The motion is that we now rise to meet again on Tuesday, April the 26th, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. All in favour? Aye. Those opposed? The motion is carried.